The silence that followed Timothy's discovery was heavier than grief. He sat on the floor before the fireplace, bone in hand, its surface still warm, as if pulled from a living body. The name Timothy, carved into it, sent a sickening chill through the room. Sarah backed away, mouth trembling, eyes darting from the bone to her brother's face. Patrick stood by the window, unmoving. Beth crossed her arms tightly, jaw clenched. No one knew what to say, but the message was clear. Mr. Martin's death wasn't the end of his story. It was the beginning of theirs. Beth found the will. It was hidden in their mother's Bible. The will slipped from the false back cover of the Bible like a ghost finally ready to speak. The parchment was brittle, ink slightly smeared by age, yet the signature was unmistakable. Just like their names on the envelope, Mr. Martin had written it by hand. The first few lines were expected: division of land, personal items, sentimental trinkets. But then it took a dark turn. The next statement read, "To claim your inheritance, you must complete the ritual of claim. It begins with the lockbox." Sarah's voice cracked. "What lockbox?" she asked, trembling. Timothy looked toward the corridor, a grim recognition in his eyes. "It's in the study, behind the wall," he said. The study had been locked for years. None of them remembered anyone going in after their mother died. But now, the door creaked open on its own. The room inside was thick with dust and old sorrow. Timothy moved to the far wall, pressing his hand flat against the cracked plaster. With a faint click, a panel shifted. Behind it lay a metal box, scorched and sealed with a wax stamp shaped like a crow in flight. He broke the seal. Inside the lockbox were 3 items: a rusted key, a strip of cloth stained dark with dried blood, and a note written in the same scratchy ink as the will. "The first to bleed shall lead." Beth refused to be involved. She turned away, muttering about leaving before sunrise. Patrick whispered that the stew from the other night had smelled exactly like their mother's. Sarah sat in the corner, eyes wide, rosary clenched in her hand. Without a word, Timothy walked into the kitchen, found the sharpest knife, and dragged it across his palm. His blood dripped to the floor. The wooden boards groaned, and lines began to burn into the floorboards in a perfect circle, glowing red like simmering coals. The house shuddered, as if something beneath it had awakened. Things were getting darker and more horrifying. An old radio on the hallway shelf crackled to life. Static filled the air, followed by a voice which was low, familiar, and terrifying. It was their father. The voice said, "Don't trust the one who cries at night." Then there was silence. A moment later, the radio caught fire, spontaneously bursting into flame. The 4 siblings screamed and trembled, but no one was there to save them. Later that night, Sarah confided in Beth. Her voice was low, barely audible, over the creaking house. "I've been hearing Mom's voice since we arrived." Beth's eyes narrowed. "Mom's been dead for 20 years, she said. "I know," Sarah whispered, "but she's in the house." Patrick had been studying the old map that came with the envelope. That's when he noticed something that hadn't been there before: a red line running from the house into the woods behind. He touched it. It was wet. The map was bleeding. At dawn, they followed the trail into the forest. The world felt unnatural, and the birds were silent. Even the wind dared not move. The trail ended at a massive tree, its bark blackened by age. A yellowed envelope was nailed to it. Beth ripped it open. Inside was a short note, and it read, "The ritual ends at the beginning. One must return to the place of the fire." Sarah gasped and said, "The old shed. Beth frowned, and in a low voice she said, "It burned down the night Mom died." They returned to where the shed once stood and froze. It had returned whole and rebuilt as if untouched by time. Beth reached for the handle, but it opened before her fingers touched it. Inside was the smell of soot and something else. Regret. There was all their mother's chair, toys from decades ago, and a half-burned picture on the wall. In the corner was a tiny coffin, which was nailed shut. Sarah staggered backward, saying, "We never buried the baby." Patrick fell to his knees, clutching his head. Visions ripped through his mind. An infant crying, their mother holding it over the fire, their father screaming, blood, flames, and smoke. "There was another child," Patrick gasped. Beth pried open the tiny coffin. There were bones wrapped in a baby blanket and a cloth with the name Naomi stitched in red thread. Sarah fell to the floor screaming, "Our twin sister was real!" And somehow they had all forgotten her. When they returned to the house, the lockbox was open again, but now it held new contents: a baby tooth, a single braid of blonde hair, and another note that read, "She is the rightful heir, but she's angry." Every light bulb in the house exploded. The walls shivered. Then came the scream that was sharp, high, childish, and full of rage. The doors slammed shut, trapping them inside. Words began to drip across the walls in fresh blood. "Why did you forget me? Left me in the fire. I want what's mine." The house went still, dead quiet. Sarah fainted and Beth screamed, running towards the study. Timothy grabbed Patrick by the shoulders. "She's real," he whispered. Patrick turned, eyes wide with terror. "She's here." Then the fireplace roared to life, and inside the flames a small girl's silhouette emerged, unmoving. She smiled.